ethically, the question then becomes like, are we okay with using artists' data to train these models, which will then directly impact the same people whose data was used to train these models? As a policy person, that raises so many flags.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lillian. I'm your host today. Welcome to the In Crowd, where we interview experts in the film, TV, media, and advertising world. Today, I'm here with Aisha Iqbal, who's an AI policy lead, and I'm very excited to chat with you. I'm going to go into your very impressive bio here, and then we'll dive into the questions. Aisha previously worked at Google, developing AI and security policies for Google Play and Android. Additionally, she was an active participant in NIST AI Working Group. What does NIST stand for again?
It's the National Institute for Science and Technology.
Amazing. Awesome. Collaborating with hundreds of AI experts to develop and test the AI risk management framework. And she's currently based in Brooklyn, but has lived in over 7 cities across 3 countries. Tell me a bit about your work as an AI policy manager. What does that look like? What are your day-to-day responsibilities? Because AI is so new, I would imagine this role is being freshly defined. So what would you say?
It is. I mean, tech policy has existed for a long time, but AI policy specifically is a pretty new field. I would say like for the last 5 years, even prior to the launch of ChatGPT, which, heralded this like new age of AI products, there were individuals who were testing out the safety of AI research and AI products. And so that's one of the key responsibilities that I have. As a policy lead, I work quite a bit with product managers and engineers to understand what research or what product they're trying to launch and then look at safety risks and potential mitigations. Also, I do a lot of interfacing with different government agencies to make sure that whatever AI product is launched is in accordance to the guidelines or like the potential laws that might be passed. My day to day, honestly, is like working with a lot of cross functional stakeholders, trying to understand like what LLM or chatbot might be launched, and then looking at potential risks and how we can account for those risks. And so the perfect chatbot balances both helpfulness and safety.
It makes me think about who's deciding what's safe, right? And who's deciding what those guardrails are, and the importance of having like good representation across all interests and all, types of people for the decision making. And so I'm wondering, like, how do you approach that? How do you approach making sure that the team is like reflecting a lot of diverse perspectives when you're establishing what the norm or what safe is?
Yeah, and that's honestly, that's one of the big issues that's still present in the AI space. Like, I am a Pakistani American, like woman, so I add a level of diversity to this thought, but even then, I am still an American, and the majority of technology is being built in Silicon Valley or New York by Americans for the American audience, with the thought of like an American audience and what they want. And yet, this technology will have impact across the world. Representation, I would say, like in the AI space, is clearly not at the level that it should be. And then this is like only within AI safety. And then when you look at like who's actually leading these AI companies, for the most part, it is like white men based in California who have only worked on other like tech products. So it is a little scary because like the key decision makers are still like a very small minority of people who really only talk to each other. In the last like 2 years, there's been a lot more like government intervention because the first iteration of like AI research and like these AI models was highly focused in Silicon Valley. But now we're seeing these like government agencies in like the UK, the US government started one, like Brazil, South Korea, where they're trying to make sure that there's more representation. That's one of the like main challenges moving forward.
How can brands responsibly navigate like the way things are so rapidly changing in the way of expediency and reach and all these things?
A very prominent examples of how media brands are like trying to use AI is think Vox and The Atlantic both signed exclusive deals with OpenAI. And so the way that a lot of, I'll go into like the impact later on,
Mm-hmm.
but essentially what that means is that OpenAI will give them a specialized model that they can use to like create content. But OpenAI also now has access to all of their like data to train their model. Earlier this year, like Vox had like a really large layoff. And so instead of like having to hire new journalists, Vox can use these models as a form of producing content. And then OpenAI now is able to have more training data. So that's one way that brands are trying to maximize the services that are allowed. Obviously, this is like limited to like very large scale
Mm-hmm.
brands, which has a lot of impacts on like media and journalism as well, and like
Mm-hmm.
the future of media and
Mm-hmm.
journalism. So like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, which are like the three big AI companies right now, have large models that you can build off, but that costs money. What we're seeing now is a resurgence of like open source models
Mm-hmm.
that are open to anybody to use. We're still just seeing like the first iteration of like how AI will impact media.
Yeah. And I think so. We touched on security, right? And then the flip side, like you're talking about Vox now, they laid off people and they're figuring out how to use AI rather than like bringing new people
Mm-hmm.
on. So I also wonder about, like in the entertainment world, especially, there's a lot of talk about the fear of job loss around people using AI for all sorts of things. And where do you think like the ethics of AI versus humanity are?
Yeah.
How do you understand, as an expert in the field, ethics as it relates to AI and whether it's people's livelihood or it's, using it responsibly or, declaring your work as your own or what when it's aided by AI? Like what are you thinking about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big issues that is constantly being discussed is copyright and like who owns the piece of work that all these models are built on. OpenAI earlier this year like released a research example of their model called Sora,
Mm-hmm.
which you might have seen. It was like 1 minute, really high quality videos when it was launched. It was such a huge deal, and everyone was like, "This is the end of Hollywood." Like,
Yeah.
it was so hyper realistic. They launched a preview, and then they made an announcement that they were going to launch it like more broadly later on,
Mm-hmm.
but that launch has not happened yet because there's a lot of risks associated with even building out a model. Like the first question is like all these models are built on previous media that was created. OpenAI's like CTO Mira was asked whether or not this model was built on like YouTube videos, and she wasn't able to answer it. So a lot of these larger companies don't disclose what the training data is, and so we
Right.
don't know whether or not this model was built on other people's videos, but that is a possibility. And so we're going to see a lot of copyright lawsuits in the next couple of years. Um, Similar, like a lot of artists file a lot of complaints against like Midjourney and other AI image generation models
Mm-hmm.
because this was like last year, but like the first iteration of these image generation models, you could actually see the signature of the artist. So if you were to like type in, draw a photo of a cat in the style of insert artist name,
Mm-hmm.
it would create a very, very similar image to like that artist's
Mm-hmm.
own art because it was trained on that data.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, ethically, the question then becomes like, are we okay with using artists' data to train these models, which will then directly impact the same people whose data was used to train these models? For me, like as a policy person, that raises so many flags because there's so many implications to like our labor market and the fact that we are using human creativity to build out these machines that will then mimic that human creativity without the human aspect. So that is something really scary. And then the second thing is, as these models get better, become more hyper realistic, it's harder for us as consumers to be able to tell a difference between what is AI generated and what is not,
Mm-hmm.
which is why a lot of legislations are asking for some sort of watermark or some sort of caption or something that says that this is AI generated.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with that is like you can easily screenshot something,
Mm-hmm.
and even if it's a digital watermark, you could screenshot it, the watermark's gone. And so that's going to be a really big issue
Yeah.
where we're going to see a lot of AI generated media mixed in with our own media. And you're going to see that in so many places. Like you're already seeing, I have a friend who works at Bumble, and she was mentioning how they've already started seeing like the majority of profiles have at least like one AI generated photo of that individual.
Whoa.
So that also raises a lot of concerns where
Yeah.
it's like, is that like, are you truly representing yourself and like the impact that that has on another individual who will match with you? And,
Mm-hmm.
it's creating a lot of issues around like, as a user, am I aware of is if this is AI generated or not?
What do you project into the future, like 1 year from now, 2 years from now? Is AI scary? Is AI scary good? How do you relate to all this? Are you scared or do you feel
Yeah,
like we got this?
because I work in AI policy, like my job is to be critical. Like my
Mm-hmm.
job is to look at risks. And so sometimes I become like such a skeptic and I'm like, oh my God, like this is actually so scary. And like, I remember when like ChatGPT was first launched, they launched it and like nothing else. So like there were like there were no safety mitigations. Like literally like when ChatGPT was first launched, it was like half of it was misinformation. People don't know that what you're saying is wrong.
Right.
So I was really scared.
Yeah.
I do think with time, the models have gotten better,
Mm-hmm.
and then a lot of these companies realize the importance of safety measures whenever they're launching something. So there is a lot of investment happening. A lot of countries are going to focus on like the labor impact of AI. Maybe in like 2, 3 years, you're going to have some sort of legislation that will try to limit AI from like AI's impact on art
Mm-hmm.
and entertainment. I don't know what it'll entail, but I just have a really strong feeling that like there will be something that tries to put some guardrail. That said, I mean, like it's an amazing technology. It's enabling so much
Mm-hmm.
creativity. I'm able to be so much more productive because of these AI technologies.
How do you use AI? Like in real quick terms, like are you training AI? There's people on our team who are like working to train chat, like, personally working to train ChatGPT and stuff like that. Like, are you training AI? Are you personally like exploring it?
Yeah, I mean, on a professional level, on a personal level, it's very different.
Totally.
Professional level, like I'm trying to break the model apart. So I'm putting the most dangerous stuff. That is definitely not what I'm doing on a personal
Right.
yeah, on a personal level, like I use it to like create itineraries. One thing that's happened is like as these AI models have advanced, the context window, so the amount they're able to like take in has expanded.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you can literally like put in like 100-page document and ask for a summary, it will give you that summary.
And you would trust its answers on that.
I would trust its answers more so now, but
Okay.
even then, like right now, I think where AI is it's not replacing anything. It
Mm-hmm.
is only like supporting
Mm-hmm.
you. There was even like throwing so many examples of like AI stuff, but there was a startup called Devin
Mm-hmm.
that earlier this year created the first like AI software engineer. And when it was launched, people were just like, oh my God, this is the end of software engineering. But now it's been like 3, 4 months, and people have realized that like Devin helps to like validate your code, but Devin itself cannot write your code. Even if it writes the code, you still have to like just yeah, you still have to like look through the code to make sure it's fully accurate. But it takes away a lot of like the pain points of gathering all the information, etc.
What are you most excited for how people can use AI and what they might do with it?
Yeah, one thing that we're testing right now is multilinguality, being able to converse and like use AI systems in different languages. I can literally ask a question in English and get a response back in Spanish, for example. So for me, that's really exciting. Like
Mhm.
I think being able to like converse with anybody in the world
Mhm.
potentially would be like such an amazing use case. That's still like right now we're able to test it for like the major languages, but like what really excites me is like there's a lot of languages that are dying out.
Yeah.
And there is the potential to like capture those languages
Mm.
through these AI models. So
Mm.
that's really exciting. Like we can capture a lot of human history and culture and knowledge through these models. So like even though certain languages or like cultures might die out, we will be able to like have that knowledge, which is really cool.
I love that. Capturing history and encouraging connection.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. And then another question from Aisha on our team, real quick, is do you think we are going to have universal income due to job loss because of the way everything's going to shift? I mean, if AI can do so much, what are we going to be doing? Maybe we'll be able to pursue enlightenment and
Yeah.
family, like strengthening family, but like universal income, how are we going to make money? Are we going to need money? What's
Yeah.
the story? What do
I
you
know.
think?
That's a really good question. In an ideal world, we would all be getting, $2,000 at least a month. I do think there will be a lot of pushback against a universal income system. One historical example that I can think of
Amazing.
is prior to the Great Depression, we had the Industrial Revolution.
Hmm.
So the Industrial Revolution happened, the Great Depression. Right after the Great Depression followed some of the most innovative social spending that we've had in the country.
Hmm.
That's where we had Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, etc. The idealist in me is like that that's happened before, that could happen again in America,
Hmm.
where we have this technology come in, there's huge disruption, and then the government provides social safety nets.
Hmm.
The realist in me is like, unfortunately, like the way that our government functions, the polarization, the deep entrenched interest that a lot of these companies have, makes it very difficult for us to like consider a future with universal income. I would love that,
Yeah.
like in an ideal world. In reality, I'm not sure. But maybe, we did have like during the pandemic, we had those pandemic checks.
That's
That
true.
was great.
That's
So,
true.
so maybe I don't think it's going to be enough to supplement the salary that might be lost.
That's
So
true.
it'll be we might have some income come in, but it won't be enough to like supplement your actual like full salary that might be impacted.
Maybe AI can hurry up and help cure world hunger.
Through AI, like people are developing food systems and like like within the nutrition space, like there's a
Hmm.
lot of developments happening because of AI. So we'll see.
What's everybody's individual responsibility as we're in this? It feels to me right now we're in this stage that's like ramping up, right?
Yeah.
We're not fully there. We haven't fully arrived. AI hasn't taken over the world yet. But what is the individual responsibility we all have to use it responsibly to help with developing some sense of internal guardrails or societal guardrails, or how do we like collectively approach entering this new world, this new age of AI?
Yeah. I think on a personal level, I know the impact that like AI is going to have on artists
Hmm.
and like media. And so on a personal level, I just like try to support local artists as much as possible. So like I know that doesn't answer your question directly, but it sort of
It's
does
perfect.
because it
Yeah.
is this like AI, like these social media apps, they are taking away some level of our humanity. And so to counteract that, like I try to support like local journalism. I
Hmm.
try to make sure that like I read articles like written by my journalist friends and
Hmm.
like journalists that I like.
Hmm.
And then I try to like buy local art as much as possible. Trying to understand whether or not something is like AI generated or not is important. These social media companies all have policies that mandates them to label if something is AI generated.
Hmm.
But even then, there will be instances where it's not as clear, or you'll read an article or you'll see a video and you'll be like, something feels off.
Hmm.
I think as a consumer, it's just important to like have a certain level of like skepticism, healthy skepticism,
Hmm.
just so you're aware that like there might like a video of like Donald Trump dancing, that might be a deep fake. We're going to see more and more videos that my videos, photos, articles, that look very realistic, but might not have the most accurate information.
Yeah.
And so just double checking to make sure that like what you're being presented is accurate.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this chat. Again, I could talk to you for hours. I think that this is like such a rapidly developing. Hopefully, we can bring you back on in like a few months, and
We'll see.
we'll
Hopefully,
see.
no major changes.
Hopefully, no major changes will necessitate another conversation. But
Yeah.
really appreciate it. You're definitely a member of the In Crowd. Learned a lot, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.